You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on United States.fm network. Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns and Freedom with Luca Zanna on K-Talks 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. This is the hour about guns. You know, I like to divide this hour into different parts, okay? There is the hour, of course, about practical things, you know, training, schools, instructors, and also, of course, deals, guns, ammunition. I try to help you out in every way I can to give you all the tools to become responsible gun owners and also, of course, proficient gun owners. Then there is also the part that for me is as important, or maybe even more important. The part that it's about our rights, our gun rights. Because, you know, the fact everybody can shoot a gun straight, you know, at least you should be able to learn about that. But the idea to start to grasp the concept that the Second Amendment, it's a God-given right. And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. It's your natural right as a human being. It's something so powerful for me. You know, I'm still not used to the idea, even, of course, I understand it. But coming from Europe, more I talk to my Italian friends or my European friends, it's like living in another twilight zone. But how do you defend this right? We exercise it. Simple as that. And that's why I really believe that sometimes some of us have to do a little bit of workout. You know, use your rights or you lose them. And there are people out there that they have a lot of to lose, I'm telling you, because sometimes, you know, when you are a person in the society already established and you got your reputation and you try to do the right thing just because you want to exercise your right, you understand also the system try to crush you, will try to smash you, they try to blackmail you almost. And I'll tell you more. I have back on the show the gentleman that I really appreciate him and I really like what he does. And also I like his brain. He's a very interesting guy. It is not just what you people may think, you know, people that who do not like guns, they think all the gun owners are a bunch of ignorance, you know, I don't know, rednecks or whatever you want to call us. No, we are a big part of society, you know, everything, white collar, blue collar, and also we have people with the great degrees in science. So right now I have this guy that I consider a friend, even I never really met him in person. We will meet pretty soon. His name is Dr. Peter Steinmetz. Peter, are you there?
I am here, Luca. How are you today?
Very good. You know, and everybody knows about you, but you know, especially in the state of Arizona. But just quickly refresh the story. What did you do so bad that you had to face the front pages of papers and being arrested at the Phoenix airport? By the way, I hate that airport. I went a few months ago and I hated it. Tell us, what happened to you?
Well, you know, Luca, basically what happened was the night before I went down there, I was subjected to some, you know, ridiculous behavior on the part of the TSA, the Transportation Security Agency, where they wanted to seize things from mine and my son's luggage. And what really outraged me about it, of course, I'm sort of used to their obnoxious behavior in this regard, but what really outraged me about it that night was that they sat there and laughed about it, okay? That they thought that this was funny, that that an American citizen would be concerned that his privacy rights are being violated and that his property is being taken from him without any due process or any judicial process. They thought this was all very funny and should be laughed about. So, you know, the next morning I got up and I decided that I was going to do a little bit of a protest about this. And I decided to take my AR-15 rifle and walk around right near the TSA checkpoints in the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport as basically an emphatic protest about their treatment of us as, you know, nominally free people.
Exactly. And I want to remind everybody that you did not infringe any laws, because you were in the non-secure area of the airport, and according to the Arizona gun laws, you were fine. Okay. Now
that's right. In a public space, you can carry a firearm openly or concealed. That is our legal right.
Okay, so you're just exercising your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, simple as that. Now, if people want to know more about the story, of course, all they have to do, Google your name, and we talk about a few times, at least a couple of times on the show. I also had your attorney, Mark Victor, that also used to be still my attorney anyway. Anyway, so that's great. Now, let's talk exactly the point. You know, you are there. By the way, I would like to remind everybody that, you know, we all individuals, we all very particular. I don't care if you are a blue collar, I don't care if you have 3 degrees or whatever, but you know, you're a very specific guy. You studied a lot in your life. You are a neurologist. I mean, you got an MD, a PhD, I mean, biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. I mean, you are guys like you normally don't go around walking with the AR-15, okay? They stay in the lab and they look at the microscopes and they mind their business. What happened to you? I mean, I want to be like almost like your mom. What happened to you? What did we do to you to make you look like that and become like that? And by the way, I'm proud of you.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, actually, in a sense. So, I pretty much all my life been a libertarian, Luca, ever since really the movement started back in the 70s, and I found out about it as a teenager. And so I had no real interest in gun rights, particularly until late 2012 after the Newtown murders, when, they started threatening to bring back the assault weapons ban. And I think prior to that time, my attitude would have been described as sort of, I grew up in a house that was very anti-gun. My parents were very strong pro-civil rights people. I remember as a child, marching in anti-Vietnam War protest marches and things like that, and civil rights marches.
Yes.
But they were not at all pro-gun. They didn't see that as a right that went along with these other rights. And, I never really thought very seriously about it. I guess my attitude as an adult would have sort of been, well, maybe we need to have this Second Amendment and people can have guns. Maybe that's the price we pay for a free society, is having this. But, maybe it is kind of dangerous, like my parents always taught me to even consider having guns in the house. Wow. And that was sort of my attitude.
Okay, good. And this is exactly the point. We all evolve, we all learn, okay?
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing. Today I changed since 10 years ago. And one thing I hope out there, listeners, they even maybe now do not understand the importance of the Second Amendment. Maybe listening to this conversation, and I tell you, I had incredible proofs. I had a lady from California just last year, 1 year ago. She hated guns. She thinks guns were supposed to be only in the hands of cops, of course, and criminals.
Right.
That unfortunately she forgot about that part. But regardless, 1 year after, she called me and said, you know what? And after especially all these, there were no accidents, but they were planned by the government. Because after all, when you create a gun-free zone in a school, you invite criminals to be there. You create
you're labeling it an area that the victims are likely disarmed.
Exactly. So that was part, my opinion, responsible also of the government creating these federal laws that law-abiding people cannot carry a gun on these schools, on these public places. So anyway, bottom line was 1 year after just having a legal conversation 1 year before, and after start to use her brain, having an open mind, she said, well, anyway, look, I really realized I was wrong, and I understand the importance of gun. It's not just about criminals. The real criminals now are in the government. And this guy,
that's true.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the original purposes of the Second Amendment was to make sure that we, the people, can protect ourselves from the criminals in the government.
Exactly. And that would be for, I tell you, if I had to stop today, my little, broadcasting, I don't even call it career because I couldn't care less. I do this as an act of love. I'm not here to become the next radio guy. But still, if I would have to stop right now, my little broadcasting experience, she made my day, okay? She gave me the purpose of this show, even if I could give the chance to one person. And she's a Democrat, by the way, okay? At least she's not exactly what you consider the average gun owner. So I was so happy, and she gave me joy, and I say, I love you, and I say, I can't wait to buy your gun, and I also give you a front sight class, okay?
Right.
All right.
Well, so my experience in some ways was somewhat similar. I mean, in the sense that, after the Newtown murders and they started threatening this, I just thought to myself, well, this is starting to kind of sound more serious.
Yes.
I need to find out what really is the story here.
Exactly.
And so, I started looking into the information and, started educating myself on this. And, the first thing I found out is what I just said, that the real intention of the Second Amendment was that individual people have the ability to have these firearms to help keep the country free. And the next thing I found out was that, this whole notion that somehow it makes it more dangerous if you have a gun in your house or something. As a doctor, I was concerned about that. But I found out that most of what the media is saying about all this is just nonsense. And if you look at the work of John Lott and so on, it becomes very clear, if you're willing as a scientist to sit down and really look at the data.
Yes.
It becomes very clear that, when we pass, shall issue concealed carry permit laws, violent crime drops. That's probably the clearest result from a scientific point of view. But there's lots of other results that, really criminals, of course, fear people who might be armed and tend not to make them victims.
Exactly, exactly. And this is the point. It's not something nobody is forcing you to do anything, out there. Let's say you don't want guns, that's fine.
Right. But, you'll still benefit, though, from the other
exactly.
people in society who are armed. There's what we call a herd immunity effect in medicine, So it's like most of the people being immunized. Not everybody has to be immunized.
Exactly.
In order to get the benefit of immunization. And similarly, not everybody has to have a gun. In fact, probably just a small percentage of people carrying is a very strong deterrent to people trying to commit violent crime.
Exactly. And also another point, I always have conversations, I'm from Italy and I still have a lot of friends and family there. And I realize how much really this country is unique because around the world, probably everywhere, even in Switzerland, people think, okay, Switzerland, they got guns. It's still state's property. It is still a privilege. It is not a right. So,
right. I think, we're probably one of the few countries that actually has it as a natural and a law recognized right to keep and bear.
So, and this is very important, guys. You may like it or not, that's fine. But normally, as I said, I don't even debate my natural rights. I don't debate my First Amendment. I don't debate the second. It's my right. But just because we're having a talk show here, and we need to start to, fill the time, I like to give you the opportunity to also think about it. I have this friend from Rome. His name is Claudio, and he was on my show last Sunday. And, in his mind, poor guy is a good guy. I like him. He's a friend since I was in my 20s. But his brain is still so molded. Like, I don't want to use the word slave, but that's the point. We were slaves in Italy. We are slaves in Italy. Because from the Romans, that only the Romans, citizens, and more important, only the soldiers and the Romans could have weapons, but the slaves were never allowed to be armed. And then you progressed it to the time of kings and lords. Only the men's kings or lords, the enforcers, they used to have weapons. The peasants, nothing. And so then we progressed to the new reality, what they call a republic, but it's not a republic, it's a democracy. There is not a Bill of Rights. And Claudio was saying, for example, my friend, by the way, yeah, in Italy you can have a gun, but if you can justify that you have a business, you make a lot of money, and you can justify that you really need it. Say, this is, first of all, it's very classist. Every human being should have their right, not because I make a lot of money. What's about a little retired person that he has not enough money? Should die in his own house? But if he missed the point, because they don't understand the real point is not about personal safety, it's about defending your rights of freedom and this republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So that's for me the most important point. Now, the most important point, it's you. Because I tell you, I have a lot of respect for you. You have a beautiful family. You could say, I don't really give a damn. I got my business. I got my degrees. I'm making plenty of money. I don't need all this stuff. Why should I go in front of, risking my life? Because after all, they can shoot you. This is not a game, okay?
That's right.
I mean, look at it.
It does entail some risk to openly carry in this fashion. That's correct.
And especially, at least the accidents happen. Sometimes they're unfortunately not negligence. They're really criminals. Not because somebody has a uniform means they're always perfect. There are good people and bad people everywhere, okay? And we know that there have been cases, people are shot in the back just because they weren't listening, okay? So, and if they find your gun on you, even this is the state of Arizona, you never know. You may find a policeman that maybe has some mental problem. Who knows? I don't know. All I know that you're putting your mouth out and you really also do the walk, okay? So what's going on now? You're preparing an event after your arrest, after you had pretty much you are not guilty. You found out the deal to work with your attorney and with, of course, the prosecutor that you have no felony, you have nothing, you're clear. But now, what are you going to plan to do the next few weeks? Because something going on.
Yeah, well, so this has to do with the Transportation Security Administration, which, was a part of my original protest. And, for your listeners, may not be familiar, these are the people in the blue costumes in the airport that insist on searching everybody's luggage and so on. Nominally, they were put in place, of course, after the attacks on 9/11 to supposedly protect us from, terrorist attacks on airplanes. But of course, they've never they've been around 14 years. Their birthday is coming up on November 19th, and they will have been around 14 years they've been doing this to us. Mm-hmm. And, if you stop to think about it for a minute, it's like it doesn't make a lot of sense that they can legally do that when you consider the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that we shall be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. But, it's justified on the grounds of, well, we can't have another terrorist attack on airplanes and so on. The problem is that when we look at the data that's been gathered about what's going on with the TSA, it's very clear that they actually aren't helping our security. They actually probably are harming it. They probably are responsible. The fact that it's a hassle to fly on flights now makes a lot of people not take short airplane flights, like from Phoenix to LA, say, and drive instead. Well, driving is a much riskier, more dangerous activity than flying on a commercial airliner. And so if you compute the numbers of people who have given up on these short flights and driven instead, and then the increase in risk, the TSA actually is indirectly probably responsible for 500 extra deaths on the highway every year.
Wow.
They've never caught a single terrorist other than their own employees that they've sometimes arrested for being connected to terrorist organizations.
Well, sex offenders. Once that many they were sexual predators.
But other than that, they've never thwarted a single terrorist attack, and there's no evidence actually that the systems that they're using are likely to thwart a terrorist attack. If you sit down and you examine the mechanisms they're using and so on, it's very easy to consider workarounds. They create actually a very attractive target with these large lines of people waiting to go through their screening at the airport. This would be a very attractive place if you were a terrorist to blow up a bomb, right, and hurt everybody in the line.
Let me give you some data, okay? Because the people out there think, okay, we're just talking about hot air. No, there are facts, and this is coming from mainstream media, okay? They normally they lie. 95% of airport security tests conducted by the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, failed at the TSA. Think about it. 95%.
Right. So your chances of being caught if you're a terrorist are only 4 or 5%.
You know how many billions of dollars we are paying for these bastards? I mean, seriously, I really mean it.
Actually, I do. It's $8.1 billion per year.
Oh my God!
And this is the other way that they actually really harm our safety. I mean, if you look at this as a doctor would say, I want to save lives. I have $8.1 billion to spend.
Yeah.
I want to save lives.
Yeah.
It turns out there are interventions that are probably 100 times more effective than spending that $8.1 billion on the TSA. For example, installing tornado shelters in the Midwest. Okay, is about 100 times more effective. Another one that's almost 100 times more effective would be buying and giving away bicycle helmets for children.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I mean, if I had to do socialism, let's do it right.
Right. So if we're going to spend that money, as a libertarian, I don't believe in the government, stealing money from one person and giving it to another. But if we are going to spend that money to try to save lives, certainly the TSA is the wrong way to spend that money.
I agree. And this is so important. Also, let me tell you my personal experience when I came to America. At the beginning, I was, of course, an immigrant, and I consider myself like a guest, okay? But in 2005, something magic happened, okay? April the 29th, I became a naturalized American, and I started to act like it, okay? Because I don't want to just say, oh yeah, land of the free, and then I'm your slave. No, So I came back from Italy after I became a citizen, and my attitude changed a little bit at the airport. So the first thing they asked me is, why did you go to Italy? I said, my personal business. And excuse me, why did you go to Italy? I say again, my personal business. They didn't like the answer, so they put me...
No, I don't imagine they would.
No, and they put me in the room with the men in the turbans. They got a special room for wannabe terrorists, okay?
Right.
And 3 hours there, and I stick to my principle. I say, by the way, excuse me, am I under arrest? Did I do anything bad? I have some sort of a warrant.
Yeah.
No. So what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I have a Fifth Amendment. I can talk. I'm sorry. I try to keep the language FCC compliance. Anyway, I have a Fifth Amendment, and what do you want from me? Open the bag. Okay, you want to open this bag? And open the bag. So it was funny, almost a comedy movie. I came to Italy for a few days, and I went to Italy just to see my mom. It was a 3 days short visit. Okay.
Yes.
And I had a little bag, very little. I didn't have a regular luggage. I have a personal backpack with 3 books that I wanted to study. One was Boston Tea Party Bible, Gun Bible, like 650 pages book about guns.
Right.
Okay? Then, there was this document, late 90s, 1999, FBI flyer. If you watch a person that is too much into guns or talk too much about the Constitution or is too much into God or religion or whatever, is a potential domestic terrorist, People used to laugh at this, but I started to laugh really when I remember that piece of paper, and I have in front of me the TS guy with the Homeland Security guy, and I started to open my little luggage, my little backpack, and the first book came out was the Boston Tea Party Gun Bible.
Right.
His eyes started to become red. Say, oh my God, I see his face start to change color.
Yes.
Second book was like, the garlic on vampires, the United States Constitution. Oh my God.
Oh.
They started to really get call reinforcement, call another one. It's one of them. And then I was laughing because I know this can be possible, because it came to my mind a little flyer. And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. The final book was Bible, the Bible in English from King James. Oh my God. And they need to know why I went to Italy. I said, you know what, you can kill me. I'm not going to tell you why I went to Italy, because it's my damn business. After 2 hours like that, I'm saying, I'm not going to talk anymore. If you want me to talk, I got my lawyer. They let say, okay, you can go. That was it.
2 hours, though.
2 hours. I should be arrested. I should sue him just because that's not even 10, 15 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
I almost lost my coincidence. But that's the point. At the end of the day, guys, think about it. I wasn't even born here, but the point, somebody before us died and fought for something very simple that is not that simple, because not every other country has. It's called the Bill of Rights. If you believe that the First Amendment, you should believe till all the Bill of Rights. And the Fourth Amendment is being destroyed. No, you know why? Because unfortunately, not enough people have been standing up to it. And that's
that's exactly right. And their justification for this, they justify it under this legal doctrine of, quote, administrative search, because they're not actually they're not proposing to search you in the course of an arrest for a crime. They're just doing this administratively to make sure we're all safe. Now, even if you buy that argument, even if you think that there should be an administrative search doctrine, which I do not, I think the whole thing is blatantly unconstitutional. But even if you buy that, one of the criteria that the courts have enforced for administrative search is that the search must be effective in actually achieving an important government objective. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're only catching 4% of attempts to smuggle contraband through, I'm sorry, you're not effective. You don't even meet that low standard.
I know, at least for me at this point, seriously, one of the reasons why criminals, like in gun-free zones, they are able to, let's say if we buy the BS story, I don't buy the idea of the box cutter or whatever, because unfortunately everybody else is being disarmed. That's the bottom line. But that's another story. The point is one thing for sure. There is something that even the person that would like to defend this idea, okay, I want to one moment play devil's advocate, okay? Yes, we need to have these people that, by the way, they are not even deputized. I mean, they're just regular privates acting like police. They are not even
they're not law enforcement.
Exactly.
Right.
But they think they have a badge. They have this God's complex, okay? And they can pretty much do things that if I was doing those things, if you were doing those things, like, for example, if you were touching, even through clothes, okay? I mean, between clothes, a man or a woman, that would be right there a misdemeanor. If I contact on tactile, I mean,
no, it's worse than that, Luca. And in fact, it really made my blood boil the last time I flew on a commercial flight with my son, because they wanted to search me, and so he opted out.
Yeah.
And so they were giving him the body pat down, and I was watching this, and I realized as they went and did this, and they're sitting there and touching your genitals and so on through the clothing, okay, and I realized in the state of Arizona, if somebody else were doing that, that's legal grounds for lethal force.
Yes.
In other words, if somebody else were doing that to my child or any child on the street, I would be legally justified in taking my gun and shooting to kill them. Right then and there.
I mean, that's the point, and by the way, let's also use the logic, guys, okay? We have our borders intentionally open, wide open, that they can come and they bring them with trucks and no controls. I mean, the same administration is bringing people from Guatemala and they don't even need to have a passport with a background check, but we are paying for the freaking airplane tickets. Meanwhile, the average Joe, or even worse, when you got people really that you see like a little child, or you have a grandmother, or you have, talking about profiling, something sometimes, yeah, we should look about also those things, okay? About harassing and touching, making our life miserable. This is my opinion, it's just conditioning, because look what you do. You go now through a machine. By the way, I'm not a doctor, but I can read the reports. This X-ray, super X-ray machine, that, by the way, everybody should know the truth. They were supported by the lobby of Mr. Chertoff when he retired. He was in charge also of this company that was selling this crap to us as the taxpayers. So Chertoff used to work for Homeland Security, and then returning revolving door, he sold this multi-billion dollars or whatever it is, or even more, deal that is not a deal. What do we do when we go through this machine? We raise our hands, correct?
Well, they require us to raise our arms. That's right.
Yeah, the same position normally when you get arrested, or when you go in, during the Germans' time, when the people put you in the freaking camps, or when they put you, papers, please. This is a conditioning. And
it's very dangerous. And Luca, actually, I figured out on my last trip. I was just recently. Actually, I was going to visit. The group, they call themselves Liberty for Everyone now in Detroit, but they used to be called Hell's Saints, the open carry activists there in Detroit. And I went to visit them recently to walk with them in some Michigan cities. Okay. And when I was going through there, I finally realized that, the only way that I personally can really go through this thing without, the sort of minimal way I can go through it, if I'm not going to deliberately try to sort of make trouble for them, which sometimes, of course, I try to do. But if I'm not going to try to do that, I realize I don't even really want to comply with them or aid their compliance in any way. So the way I go through now is I will obey their direct commands, but only their direct commands.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Right? So when I go up, I just try to walk through. Yeah. And if they then tell me, you must place your laptop on that baggage thing over there, I will take out my laptop and I will put it there. Yeah, and then they will have to tell me, you must take out your wallet and put that over there.
Yeah, no, I understand. Right? I understand.
Because I don't want to cooperate with them in any way. I don't want to aid this charade and this blatant violation of our rights.
And this is, guys, out there, you may maybe believe that this is a purpose. Let's use the logic. 95% of tests from Homeland Security, the same government that we have, supposedly they're working for, these people. They prove that the TSA failed and is failing, number one. Number two, there are great cases, of course, of people that don't even have a real background check. Many of them, they've been found guilty of sexual crimes, sexual predators. Think about, if you're a sexual freak predator, that's the best job you can get. You can go there and pedophile. You can.
That's what they were doing in. There was the case in Colorado at Denver International. They just recently charged these guys, right, where they had homosexual men who had an arrangement with somebody near the front of the line to pick out what they perceived as being attractive males for additional body pat-downs, so that these homosexual male agents could, in fact, grope the genitals of these other men.
This is so sad. No, really, this is the point. Now, we can do something. After you do your researches out there, say, maybe Dr. Steinmetz is right. Maybe we got to start to speak up. Let's use our First Amendment. Let's start to show that we are not completely dead. Because the point we comply, we are silent, we're going to just pretty much say, okay, we are dead. No. We have freedom of speech. Let's use it. Let's organize. Let's start to show that we still have some pride and some little bit of dignity as a human beings, as Americans. And there is a way, peacefully, to start to expose these scumbags. Tell us exactly your event, when it's happening, what exactly you want to do, and if people, what can do to help.
Yeah, well, so we decided that given that November 19th was the birthday of the TSA, that shortly after that we should have a little birthday event for them, if you will. So on November 21st, which is a Saturday, we are going to have an educational demonstration at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, in which we are going to, do two things. We're going to hold up we're going to be there. We're going to be holding up signs that point out some of these facts about the TSA, about, basically how they are not helping security and so on. And we're also going to be passing out, small pieces of literature to help emphasize that point.
Great.
Now, we actually did something similar to this last December. A friend of mine and I went down after the TSA decided to, make a big hassle for me. We went down to the airport last year, and we found that actually this is probably we feel is pretty successful.
Wow.
As a technique, because, if you poll the average American citizen, first of all, the vast majority of them think the TSA is a pest, of course. But about half of them seem to think that the TSA is doing some good, right? That this is a necessary evil, if you will. And so we want to educate people that, look, this isn't necessary at all. In fact, they're probably actually hurting our security. So to do that, we found it to be pretty successful to hold up signs with sort of, eye-catching slogans on them to get people's attention, and then give out literature. And about half of the people there, overall, we got a very positive response.
Excellent.
From people in the airport, because a lot of people are very scared of the TSA. They think that, if you even say anything about the TSA, they'll start hassling you, and so on. And so I think that this helps to break down that sort of invulnerability of the TSA, that people could actually be standing there right in front of their line, right, with a sign saying this is pointless, essentially, right?
Well, unfortunately, there's one thing is true. At least some of us, we're way past the time to be afraid. But the point is, yes, now what they're trying to do, they try also to snoop on social media. I mean, this is directly from Russia Today, RT.com. That the TSA, you could start to look at your social media. That means they see exactly what you do, what your type of statements you do, what political opinions you have, and then they can give you have this excuse to treat you even in, like now, the definition of domestic terrorist is pretty much everybody who believes in freedom. If you believe in the Bill of Rights, that's right there. You're on top of the list, So,
yeah, well, I was placed, on after I did my protests in August of 2014, I was placed on their SSSS list.
Wow.
Which is the list basically that they use to do, full body pat downs and extra scans on your luggage and so on.
Wow.
And so I was on that for about a year. Recently, they've taken me off, I guess, because several times now I've filed redresses with them and so on. To me, I don't worry about this. Obviously, they're probably going to place me on this list. But that, we need to stand up. And the more people that stand up, the better.
I think every American should be on the list. They should have run out of paper and ink. That's what we should do. That's the way we're going to take this country back. The point that we all stand up and we do a little bit. There is not enough, more focus to put focus on any one of us. Because,
Yes.
I can go, you can go, but guess what? They're not going to kill us all. They cannot arrest us all. That's the bottom line. And, of course, I'm not talking about here dying. I'm talking about here just start to do the basics. We want to avoid to go to a deeper level of tyranny. Let's start to use our First Amendment, start to use the education like you're doing, flyers, information, because after all, I believe that every human being, after all, not everybody, some people like to be a slave. I really believe that. But the average human being would like to be free, would like to at least to have the opportunity to live with dignity. And when they understand with some logic that this is evil and the facts prove, they can start to activate themselves and do the little part, even just, start to talk to your useless congressman, start to tell him what you think about it. That's the first step, And
yeah, I think we need to change the public perception. We need to get this 50% of people thinking is a necessary evil to be. We need to help educate people and get that percentage to be a lot lower. And once we have, a larger percentage of people realizing this is just security theater, it's a joke, then we have a chance, I think, to start making some other sort of improvements. I mean,
exactly.
So, the website that we're running now, Luca, is realairlinesecurity.org.
Mm-hmm. Say it again. Spell it for me, please.
Okay, it's REALLINESECURITY.
Perfect.
And then .org. So on there, we're starting to collect a lot of information, okay, about what is happening with the TSA, so people can definitely go to links there. The other thing you'll see there is that we advocate for a 3-step solution to this problem, because, you can say, well, what's the solution? Are we just going to get rid of the TSA? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And what we advocate for is a 3-step program of privatization of airline security. And the first step is to privatize the screeners. And we can already do that under current law. In other words, an airport can say, we don't want these government unionized pension-seeking employees to do the screening. Mm-hmm. We want to have a private company come in and be responsible for the screening. And that's been done at 19 airports around the country, and it's been shown to actually improve, not a surprise, improve customer responsiveness, because those people could actually be fired if they do a bad job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. There's more accountability. Now, people are receiving messages meanwhile say, look, that's great. I like this stuff. But what's about the guns, man? This is the hour about guns. Guys, it's all connected. Because, first of all, this is Arizona, as I said, and it's right is a muscle. Use it or lose it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I know that we all have a First Amendment, and also we have a Second Amendment. And the point is, Dr. Steinmetz, Peter, when was the time last year or so when you went into that situation? You were alone, but you were exercising your right. You were doing exactly what also the law say that you can do, and you still had to face, the violent part of the government to try to force you that make you feel like you were breaking the law when you didn't. Now, that's
right, and I think with respect to the TSA, Luca, if I can interject here,
yes,
I think that. I agree with the people, who were, from Detroit who say, look, it's not commonplace to walk around. We have the right to do this. We have the right to walk around in society with, a long gun or a rifle. But one of the purposes of walking around in public with long guns and rifles is essentially to send a message, to demonstrate something about our freedom.
Exactly. And as much as it may seem extreme, the point is exactly the point. You have the right, but the point that nobody exercises it, nobody uses it, they automatically, even it's your right and it's the law, you're going to get in trouble because, wow, why are you doing that? So, more important, there are always, happy medium between. This is going to be the focus probably about the TSA, not much as about carrying, open carry. You know what? In the state of Arizona, since the first day I came here, there is no one day, unless I have to go, and I try to go less as possible to the post office or federal buildings, I don't go there. I carry my weapon, my side weapon, my handgun, anywhere allowed by the law. And I would not change anything if I had to go to the airport, where exactly in the non-secure area where it's allowed. I would make a point to be sure I not only have one gun, but I have two guns, one on the right, one on the left. But regardless, the point is the great opportunity, in my opinion. That's why I wanted to bring you in the hour about guns. It's about rights. It's about the First Amendment, but also the opportunity to do exactly what you did when you were exercising your Second Amendment in a non-secure area of the airport.
Well, and people are welcome to, as I say, I would encourage everybody who cares about our Fourth Amendment rights, our rights to privacy, to come down and help us out with this protest about the TSA. Again, it'll be on November 21st at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting at the parking lot for the SkyTrain initially, and then carpooling over to the different sites at the airport. But we want to meet there in that parking lot for the SkyTrain at 1 p.m. And we'll have signs, we'll have literature, everything ready to go. So if people, who are interested in helping us defend our rights want to show up, that's wonderful. If you just come with a willingness to help. Anyone who wants to come and carry is certainly more than welcome to. I think that's a wonderful thing to do as well.
Especially, if you carry, like handgun, like normally we do in the state of Arizona.
That's what we do. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
simple. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't leave my gun in the car just because I don't want to offend some government workers or para-government workers because they may be disturbed. Too bad. I am not in the secure area. I'm allowed to carry. I'm responsible. It is in my holster. I am exercising my First Amendment. Leave me the heck alone. Simple as that. If I could suggest you some special weapon to bring, all of you guys, bring a beautiful, with double batteries, video camera. Every one of you should have
we need a lot of video cameras and people recording as well, because, I suspect in my case, for example, that if I had, if somebody had been walking right next to me with a video camera, I imagine I might not have been arrested. I don't think the police would have been trying to cook up some story, right, as the basis of an arrest.
I agree.
If they had known it was all being videotaped.
I agree. That's why I say, I have a gun always on me, and thank God I never use it. But I have a video camera in my other side of my holster, and I use it almost every day. and that's the biggest deterrent, against everything. Evil in general doesn't want to be exposed, and that doesn't mean that just some corrupted government agent. That could be also the typical criminal that want to become a criminal, but when you start to see that you start to put them on video, you start to run away because they don't want the attention, So it's very important, I really say everybody, the camera, it's the truth. The camera is the facts, no edited, and that's what we should really have on our side: the truth and the facts. Now, this is the hour about guns. I got people already say, great, I want to go there, I'll go there, but that's fine. But can we talk about guns too? Yes. Okay, now, after this, of course, great event that I think should be very important because it's part of our exercising our rights, and I wanted to incorporate also here, since we are in Arizona, please do it in a let's say, I don't like to call polite, but doing with way taste. We are, after all, law-abiding people. Let's show them that, they come to us. Sometimes, I live in the desert, I must tell you. I wear boots and I got my pants. I live on a farm, so that's fine. But when a few times I come to town, and I always open carry, I like to even make a more point, I'm a person and I have dignity. And when I go into these places, I like to dress even more intentionally, that I want to show that put your hands off. Because I'm not your slave, I'm not your peasant, okay? So it's up to you guys, do whatever you want, but try to always get the upper edge, do it with taste. If you got a gun, put a beautiful gun, put a beautiful holster, put a beautiful shirt, show it off to these people that we are not their slaves, okay? After all, we're supposed to be the masters, we're supposed to be the people that pay for the salaries, okay? So let's show a little bit.
That's good advice, Luca. Good point.
Yeah, let's show that we got class, okay? And then when they come close to us, I tell you, it changes everything. Even when the cops approaches you, if they see that you are dressed decently, they start to treat you differently. It's normal. It's human. Okay.
Yeah, they make an assumption, and maybe it may be justified, maybe unjustified. Of course, in my case, it doesn't apply anymore. They come up to me and they go, "Oh, Dr. Steinmetz."
Yeah. Okay. Now, guess what? It's not gonna be.
What are you up to now?
Exactly. But no more Dr. Steinmetz. It's gonna be every one of us can become Dr. Steinmetz. That's the idea.
I hope we'll have a good number of people coming, and as I say, I encourage everybody to come, and I would encourage people in other parts of the state or even other states, if they want to do something on the 21st. Also, if you go to our website, we'll try to, or you contact us, you can always do info@realairlinesecurity.org, and that will come to us as an email. And we're certainly happy to provide, the materials, the sort of sign images and printouts for brochures that we will be making. We're certainly welcome to give them to anybody who would like to run similar events elsewhere.
Perfect. Dr. Steinmetz, since we have 15 more minutes, you want to stay with me? I'm going to finish up some guns issue. Maybe you can give me your input on things. I got some good deals. Okay, first of all, in this hour, normally I like also to share good deals, okay? I go out, I go on the internet. These are not even my sponsors. I really do, because I would like to give the information to every law-abiding person out there to get the best deals to afford guns and training and ammo. The deal of the week that I found for a great rifle that I think is the foundation to become a rifleman, and this is also an incredible deal because it's a collector series. It's the Ruger Collector Series 1022 carabine, 22 of course, and this is out of a Sportsman Guide. Why I like this rifle? I like any Ruger. That's a great rifle to train, especially when you do the modification that I'm going to tell you right now. To become a rifleman, you need, first of all, a sling, because we shoot from standing, sitting, and prone. We do not use the benches, and the rifle with the sling, it's the must. Now, this rifle, what I like, normally the regular Ruger 1022, there are not the little, connections for the swivels for the sling. So you need to do it. You need to insert them and buy them and drill it. This instead comes directly with the swivels for the sling, where you can adapt your sling, number one. More important, what I like, you have not only the front sight, that it's exactly the way we want it, but the rear sight, it is a different type of rear sight that is not a typical V, but there is a different type of rear sight that simulate the sight of an M14. Like normally what I do, when I buy my Ruger 1022, I buy an aftermarket kit for the front and rear sight that they simulate the same PIP sight like the M14. So this is an incredible rifle. By the way, and the quality, it's even better than the average standard 1022. We're talking about forged barrel and other beautiful things that make it very accurate. The price is incredible. I really believe it could be a great investment, and it's also collection items. It is for the 25th or 50, the 50 years of the Ruger. Anyway, it's $200 $37.49. And you can make the payments in 4 payments. I used to buy stuff from Sportsman Guide. When I buy, you can become a member for $20, and they can make you 4 different payments, no interest. So for $50 a month or change, you can get this rifle that I think it's the foundation for every type of marksmanship training. And the Porta is also a very helpful rifle to have. You know, in my list of rifles, a 22, it's a must. Do you have any 22 rifle in your list of rifles?
Actually, I was going to comment on the 1022 that, you know, if you're thinking about, you know, just buying a single 22, that this is certainly one of the favorites, and especially if you're thinking about getting one, say, for a young man or a young woman. My son used to love to practice with the 1022 that was available for rental at our gun club. You know, it's a very fun rifle for people to be learning on that. I actually ended up buying, eventually, I bought my son a bolt action 22, a CZ.
Okay. Okay, that's really good. I got those too, and I like them. You know, honestly, every rifle is good to practice. What I like about the Ruger 1022, first of all, it's very common rifle. There are a lot of spare parts,
yes,
a lot of aftermarket parts, and it's reliable. You keep it clean. It's very reliable, very accurate, and I can do with this little modification. I like this aftermarket kit for the rear sight. You have exactly the same sight picture of an M14, a military rifle. So you can train, especially, you know, I learned this from the Appleseed program. They show me this, and of course they have these 25 yards scaled down targets that they reproduce for minutes of angles. That means you have now, for example, 1 square inch little target at 25 yards. It reproduces exactly, for example, at 100 yards, there would be a 4 square inches, or 500 yards, there would be 20 square inches. That also is the military army qualification test for expert riflemen. You need to keep your grouping for minutes of angle. So I really say, guys, if you don't have a rifle yet, I start with this one. That would be my first thing. And also, don't underestimate the rifle because it's 22. The rifle 22, it's a great survival rifle. You know, I'm sure you're familiar with the purposes of what you can do with a 22, right, Peter?
Yes, definitely. I mean, very good for hunting as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you have small games, you know, you want to first of all keep the noise low. I mean, of course, you got pests, rodents, and don't underestimate. I mean, don't get me wrong. If I had to defend myself and my freedom from an aggressor or from a violent person, I want to have as much gun as I can. But a 22 is so easy to shoot and so accurate. There is no recoil that even a little young man or young woman can be accurate. And I tell you, they're one of the most lethal rounds out there. According to the statistics, it is the 22, because people underestimated it and they think, oh, the 22 is just a small round. It's so fast. So,
well, what really matters, of course, with any round is how well is it aimed.
Exactly.
And what do you hit? And with a 22, you're in a lot of cases more likely to be able to hit.
Exactly. So I really say, guys, you know, something I wanted to share with you this week. Go to sportsmanguide.com, check it out. As I said, I'm not getting paid for this, okay? I just do it because I would suggest this to a friend. Friends tell me, what rifle should I start with? Start with the Ruger 1022, and then I would say, start to put a different aftermarket, you know, upgrades. But here it's ready to go. $237, Sportsman Guide, Ruger Collector Series 1022. And that's one thing I wanted to share with you guys. Now, another thing about, you know, I always go around and say, you know, little bit of, I don't say techniques because I'm not an instructor, but, you know, I like to share what I know and what I do normally. You know, by the way, I have a book that is almost ready. It's something that I would like to share with you because, you know, I know that you are now also a front sight member. I consider myself like a professional student. What I do, I learn, and then I try to share with people. So I have my handgun book coming pretty soon, next month, and I like to put out from this experience a little bit of ideas. For example, you know, do you ever try to do with your handgun the drill that I call the ragged hole drill? Did you ever heard about that?
No.
Okay, something I would like to share with every one of you. It's very important because that's going to give you the idea where is your level of mastering the basic 3 secrets of marksmanship with the handgun. Okay, the basic 3 secrets of marksmanship, probably I already talked about this, I repeat them quickly. You know, first of all, you must have your sight alignment. You must align that sight exactly the way it's supposed to be according to your gun. Then you must have, of course, the sight picture. You want to put the front sight exactly where you want it to be. Then, of course, you gotta also focus on that front sight. That's very important. And then you must master the trigger control. Now, the idea is, how do you verify that you're doing it right? You get like 1 square inch with a black marker, make photocopies, whatever, and put this little target on at the range, and go like about 5 yards. Okay, then this is not time constrained. You can do it with much calm. Okay, from the ready position, you're going to start to aim for that 1 square inch at 5 yards. And every time you place the shot, every time you squeeze the trigger, you want to go through your mind all the principles that I just told you: side alignment, side pitcher, fog on the front sight, and that squeeze, that surprise break of the trigger. By the way, you must get 3 rounds at least, or 5 rounds. You make the little square inch completely like a ragged hole, all there in that little square inch. It seems like simple, but it's not. You don't have a handgun, excuse me, you don't have a rifle, you have a little pistol, you don't have any support, and you shoot 5 rounds with calm, but you must put them in that square inch. When you start to realize that you do everything right, you will see it, because you will have all that rounds in that square inch. It's kind of beautiful, and you'll feel like, wow. But I tell you, you must really master all these basic 3 secrets, and especially the front sight, focus on the front sight, because 1 square inch at 5 yards, it is not easy to hit, okay? And then once you learn that, you graduate to that level, you can also push it to 7 yards, makes it even more interesting. So something to challenge. Why don't you give it a try? Maybe next time you go to the range, Peter.
I will do that. Yeah, I think I've sort of been shooting my pistol mostly at 7 yards, I guess, 21 feet. So I should try this little exercise with that.
Yeah, and this is just for marksmanship, by the way. This is not about, because the point is, of course, we do other exercises. This is just about being sure that you master the principles to shoot exactly and hit what you want to hit, to be accurate. Now, in the real, another thing I was going to touch today, the difference between target shooting for accuracy between real life self-defense. We must find a compromise. Our group, we don't want to have the little group that every round stays in that little 1 square inch. Absolutely not. That would be something just when we do this type of marksmanship exercise. The ideal position of our rounds is supposed to be like a handspan. You want to have all your rounds in the handspan.
For self-defense,
for
right?
Self-defense.
So that you're not just hitting the same place over and over again.
You want to put exactly center mass and center of the center thoracic mass, but you want to put all the round in that hand span. Why? Because that pretty much is the compromise between speed and accuracy. If you go too fast, you will see your group start to get too expanded. And there is the rule, I didn't make this rule, it's called the 50% rule. That means, you ever heard about the 50% rule, Peter?
Not applied in this case. Go ahead.
This is directly from front side curriculum. I'm not here the instructor. I'm just repeating what I learned, okay?
Yeah.
Bottom line is this: the under stress, in the real life, not on the range where we have your cigar and everything's cool and fine. In the real life, you're gonna have adrenaline. You're gonna be stressed out. You're gonna probably freak out. Your body is gonna be full of chemicals. And at that point, your type of stress is going to influence also the accuracy. So let's say you're going to buy normally the average shooter out there, unless you're a professional, kind of trained, you're going to respond at least 50% less than you average. So let's say if my group is already way too spread out at the limits of the thoracic center area, you're going to be probably off. But if you keep your group in your handspan of the sides of your handspan, okay, in the center mass, you're going to be fine. So that's why we want to train to achieve accuracy and speed as a compromise and keep the group in that type of handspan. That's why it's called also the 50% rule. If you go bigger than the handspan, you may start to have misses, and that's very bad.
Right, but you still want to be as quick as you can.
Of course, but also you remember, we are accountable for every round we shoot. We are not like law enforcement. Law enforcement, they're always going to be somebody else paying the bill. If you do a mistake, unfortunately, you're going to go to jail or you're going to pay out of your own pocket. I mean, I'm not trying to be down on law enforcement, but law enforcement, unfortunately, if they make a mistake, say sorry, they have some sort of immunity. You as a law-abiding person, as a citizen, armed citizen, if you make a mistake, we are accountable for every round we shoot morally, economically, and criminally. So we got to really be sure that we must find a compromise between speed and accuracy. And sometimes it's better to, of course, you also must remember that, in the real world, it's not like the range. It's a three-dimensional environment. It is not just everybody safe. We have a target in front of us doesn't shoot us back.
That's right.
People can be behind or can be between. So we gotta think fast. That's why training is so important. Hey, did you ever go to front side after all that?
Well, I was up there. You kindly gave me this membership to Front Sight, actually,
Yes.
and so I had taken the shotgun class.
Good. Now
last fall. So I was trying to get back up there this fall, but it just hasn't worked out with my schedule.
Perfect. Next time I would suggest really you would enjoy very much, because normally we carry the gun almost every day. The shotgun normally is more something we leave behind,
Right.
Try to do the handgun class. You're going to really like it, It's going to be a very great experience, I think.
Yeah, that's next on my list is the handgun class.
Perfect. So listen, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you guys today. We had a great guest here, Dr. Peter Steinmetz, and this is about rights. It's a Second Amendment, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, they're all together. And one more time, last time, I'm going to let you please remind the people what's happening, when it's happening, and the website.
Okay, well, so our website is realairlinesecurity.org. So we're trying to improve security and the way security is achieved in the airports and the airlines. We're going to have a demonstration event to try to educate the public about how useless the TSA is on November 21st at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting at the parking lot for the SkyTrain, which is just north of the airport, and traveling from there over to help educate the traveling public about the TSA and what we need to be doing instead.
And of course, guys, this is also the opportunity to exercise your Second Amendment. Do it in a smart way. Do it in a way that also you show who is boss. We are the bosses. They work for us. So dress up nice and get your most expensive gun and the best holster you have, if you can. Okay, that's my personal.
I would love to see. I would love to see a lot of carriers there. As people may know, I can't openly carry at the airport until November of 2016 because of my deal with the prosecutor. So I will not be openly carrying, but I would love to see other people carrying.
Perfect. And by the way, I wanted to also remind the listeners, I hope you enjoy the information I'm trying to bring you, the guest, and also the practical economic things. I'm trying to make you save money, guys. I try always to find you deals and things I can try to share with you. Now, this show is not supported just by the Holy Spirit, because I'm here because I really believe somebody's helping me out, because sometimes I get tired and I don't know even why I'm doing it. But I do it because I love you, and I love this country, and I love freedom, and I want to take it back. I also need your help, though. Okay, I'm not relying on commercial sponsors, but you can help me out in a very simple way. And this is not even charity. This is something you get something back. Not only you get a show, but also you get songs. I write songs for a living. That's what I do. One of the things I do. You can go to one of my websites, for example, Zanna Art, ZANNAART.com. You can see the different things that I create between musics, and also, of course, I have different other things you can find there, my paintings or prints. But even just with 99 cents, you can download any of my songs, and doing so, hopefully you enjoy the song, at the same time you support the show. So go to zannaart.com and please support the show and keep it free. That's all I wanted to say. Peter, thank you very much. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen with my life, but if I can, I would love to be there. But regardless, I will send you as many people as I can from here, okay?
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. Guys, don't go away, because we have our number 3. It's all about love. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with Luca Zanna. Ciao.
We're not afraid. You work for us. We're not your slaves. Don't tread on us. You cross the line. Soon you will pay for all your crimes. Don't tread on us. We're not afraid. Your slaves, don't tread on us. You cross the line, soon you will pay for all your crimes. After a long train of abuses,